Good morning. It's good to see you on this Wednesday morning. Of course, it's a very special day, and this is as far as all the women are concerned. It is International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day to all the women, from wherever it is that you are watching us from. A very important day, but also a day that we need to have a very important conversation that involves all of us. And this is regardless where we are, where we are from, and of course our social standing as well. And this is as far as embracing equity, and that is the theme for this year's, because as we all know, the United Nations observance of International Women's Day under the theme Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality recognizes and celebrates the women and girls who are championing the advancement of transformative technology and digital education. And the observance will explore the impact of the digital gender gap on widening economic and social inequalities, and it will also spotlight the importance of protecting the rights of women and girls in digital spaces and addressing online and ICT. And of course, this is facilitated gender-based violence. All right. And of course, like I said, it's a very, very important day for all of us to not only just have a conversation for one day, but of course, a conversation that again will help us, and especially when it comes to sustainability of some of those things that we are, talking about. And of course, this year's theme is all about embracing equity, and this is the slogan that we're going about. I really, really like it, and I wish we could just be like this the entire show. But again, you get what we're talking about, and that is embrace equity. So of course we'll be talking about it. We have an amazing panel that we have lined up for you in today's conversation, and of course these are women in tech. All right, amazing women that you want to interact with. But before you meet them, let's take a look at what we are asking you today, and that is very simple. Who are you celebrating on this International Women's Day? Once again, who are you celebrating on this International Women's Day? You know the drill by now. Interact with us on our socials at MTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, and tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie. And of course, use the hashtag YourWorld and hashtag Embrace Equity. All right, so it's very simple. Who are you celebrating? I can see a number of you on Facebook who say my mom and my lovely wife, and this is Alexis Buka Chelsea. So my mom and my lovely wife, Reggie Franco, you a strong women. And then we also have Ronald Buga who says my mom, and then someone else says Elizabeth Nyamai says my mom and my sister Flo. So again, who are you celebrating on this International Women's Day? I'll be looking at your feedback as we continue with the conversation, but let's meet my panel for the day. And of course, joining us via Zoom, we have Nelly Cheboy. She is not new to us, but in case, again, you are interacting with that name for the very first time, Nelly Cheboy is the founder and CEO of Tech Lead Africa. But of course, she was actually recently, given an award, and that is as far as the CNN award is concerned. Of course, she'll be telling us more on the same. Nelly, so good to see you this morning. How are you doing? Joining us all the way from Mogotio. How are you?
I'm good. Kuna vumbi huku.
I can imagine. It's everywhere. The sun has decided to sun, literally. But it's so good to have you this morning joining us for this very important conversation on International Women's Day. So I'm just going to say happy International Women's Day to you. And of course, we also have Ariel, right? Okay, Ariel Molino, who is an Associate Vice President, Intel Corp. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for coming by, this morning. And we have Mumbi Ndungu, who is the Chief of Growth and Operations Power LAN Project. So good to have you this morning. You all look lovely. And I'm just going to say as well, happy International Day, Women's Day to you as well. And of course, we're so glad to have you guys really coming by today and just help us, have this important conversation, and the fact that you are, in tech. So it's good to have, your perspective as well. So before we talk about what this day means to you and how, first of all, did you get yourself in the spaces that you are, excuse me, some of the lessons that you've learned and, you know, maybe the mistakes that you've made along the way to be where you are right now. Let's take a look at what the numbers say. And this is as far as the women who have access either to the internet or do not have access. All right. So this is according to the United Nations, where, again, like we said, today is all about the International Women's Day. And of course, under the theme, Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. So the United Nations say only 37% of women, 37% of women do not use the internet. 259 million fewer women have access to the internet than men. And this is even though they account for nearly half of the world's population. All right. And then only 22% of women, artificial intelligence workers are there, and this is globally. And then 44.2% of AI systems demonstrate gender bias, and 73%, women journalists have suffered online violence in the course of their work. All right. So the question is, what do you guys think about those numbers? And this is as far as, first of all, the number of women who, use internet, and of course, the number of women who are number one in STEM, and of course those who also have work in as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. Nelly, I want to start with you. What do you feel about that, and where have we gone wrong?
Oh, it's really sad to see that that's what is going on for women and girls. I wish I had more to say about that. Actually, I don't. I think it's really sad that it's like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's really, really sad to hear that. All right. Ariel, what do you make of that, of the numbers?
I think it reflects a sort of deeper level inequity in our society, right? And I think it's also reflective of the fact that women have access to less resources, fewer resources. I think even when you look at the nature of phones that women have, I think GSMA did research on is that the actual quality of the phones that women have is far less. So obviously they're going to have less access to the internet, and what that implies for the rest of development, economic development, entrepreneurship development, when you're hamstringing half of the population, or half of the population has limited access to these resources, then what does that mean in terms of their ability to grow, their ability to scale their businesses, that's a watershed effect, right? That's I think these are symptoms of I think what deeper rooted issues.
That's true. That's true that we need to address today and hopefully find answers to as well, so that again moving forward you have totally different conversations. And this is as far as equity is concerned, because there's a bit of a difference between equality and equity.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of discussion around will we ever be equal, and this is men and women and all this. We're not going to go into that conversation, but it's all about embracing equity today. Mumbi, very quickly for you, what did this number say?
I think I'll just echo what Ariel said, because it's more of a reflection of our society. Because I say what we see online is just a reflection of the analog society. So I think we need to go back to the root, first fix what are the actual problems in regards to inequality, and then now I think we'll find a more reflection of that online as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, then let's come back to you. You are a woman in tech, and of course you started your company, and that is TechLink Africa in 2018, right? So then how did you get there? How did you get to that space?
I first used a computer when I was applying to colleges in the US. So before that, I would see them in a cyber, and I remember a cyber, I owe the cyber guy 60 shillings because one time I was sent to go get milk, and then I had a Facebook, so I went to the cyber and I sat there and I tried to figure out Facebook, and I didn't have money. I didn't even have money to pay that guy. So anyway, so I was really computer illiterate. And then when I went to America, I got a scholarship to go study in America in 2012. And when I got there, I was so far behind.
Okay.
I couldn't even do my assignments, because everything is just typed. I was typing what you call the DJ, like ile ya kuangalia keyboard na kutafuta. And so I was a very student, but ikifika when it comes to actually doing my assignments, I've been uploading things, emailing people, I had no idea. So I really struggled. And I stumbled upon knowing what the tech world is, the software engineering world is, when I was at third year in college, almost 1 year left in my scholarship. And when I learned that, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that that even like I had to keep telling myself, hey, like, hey, Nelly, you came from Mogotio, you got a scholarship, like you did. The reason you're struggling with technology is simply because you came from Mogotio, right? And simply because of like the way you grew up. And so it really inspired me a lot to think about, I was like, if I came all the way to America and I'm really struggling, what about my community back home? And that's what inspired me to really look into tech. So I got a degree in computer science in 1 year.
Right.
So it's easier in the US because I just like got all the classes ready in 1 year. Then I started thinking about incorporating those lessons in schools.
I see that, and of course, this again, you were inspired based on, you know, a need, and like what you're saying is you are far behind. I mean, could you remember maybe that one instance or two? Did you experience like any form of, I don't know, stigma, you know, shame? Because now you're very far behind. You know, everybody's trying to understand you can't do basic things.
I think it's not even that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not. It's like no one noticed. I mean, it's really it's more about the internal fight that you have with yourself. I mean, I did really well out of my college. I got like a very high GPA, and I got a job. I couldn't even get a job as software engineer. For example, I have a degree in software engineering. You're given. I was given a code block to solve, like for a coding interview. And I couldn't even pass a coding interview, even with a degree, because these coding interviews are done on Zoom calls. If you give me a function to write on a piece of paper, I can solve it fine. But if it will take me like 30 minutes because I have to find all the keys, and I kept failing at interviews. I had to get a job as like almost like a data entry, mostly doing Excel, because I could not pass a coding interview. And then in this job, every time my boss came and I'm trying to like present something, I am shaking. I feel like a liability. I am stammering because I keep thinking I'm gonna get fired any moment here because I am taking so long to type. So even with a like a very high GPA, even with a degree in computer science, I still had to take spend another 6 months to learn touch typing before I could get a job in software engineering. So that kind of like, you're coming, it's just a foreign land, right? You don't know anyone, you're just coming there to make ways there. And then constantly seeing that internal conflict that you have. I remember I almost did not do computer science. I really wanted to do computer science. And I was like, I only have 1 year left. There's no way I should just continue with my other track. And I remember I had to keep asking my computer science teacher, do you think I can do it? Am I ready? Am I ready? Because I just felt like I was so far behind. I was so far behind. And then I'm looking at all the American peers in this class, and I hear their story. They're like, oh, we've been coding since we were 9. They're like, oh, this is called touch typing. Just put your keys. I have no idea. And so I think it was more like the internal fight. I mean, it's with anything. The things that we tell ourselves are way worse than the things that other people say about us. So that internal fight was something that I had to struggle with for so long.
For a while. And of course, the whole question about access, you know, and all those things. Again, Mumbi, we want to hear your journey as well, how you got yourself, you know, into this tech world. Because for a very long time, you know, for us women, it's more of, and I think it's basically what Nelly is also saying, that, you know what, this is more of like an eternal fight. It's like, that is just like a man's field, not my field. But how did you get yourself, you know, to this world?
All right, thank you so much. So I've always worked in the social impact space, whether it's through media, communications, and all of that. So I think my journey to tech was quite inevitable, but just based on my own experience. During the pandemic, I realized I had a lot of friends who run small businesses, especially young women. So they would sell, whether it's clothes or things like that. During the pandemic, they suffered a lot because most of them had not adapted to using technology for their business. So it was, you need this thing, I'm in this particular place, you can come and get it. So it hit them very hard when the pandemic hit. And then I realized after doing some research that it hit a lot of people the same way because people had not adapted. And so they're in that process of trying to adapt, and you're in this pandemic. So there was a lot of gaps that they were trying to fill, which were affecting their businesses in return. So especially in regards to talent. So finding the right talent was very expensive. So it ate so much into the operations because they're trying to build e-commerce platforms and things like that. And sometimes when they go for the less expensive option, they were not quality talent. So they'll still have to spend this money, and in the long run, it ended up being very expensive. Yeah. And you know, we did some research, and we were like, what is this gap that needs to be filled in regards to this? So we can make sure that in the event, God forbid, of another pandemic, most African businesses will be able to at least continue operating, even if not at 100, at least at 70%. Yeah. And we realized one of the things we can do is by providing opportunities to access quality education at a very affordable rate. And that's how Powerland ideally was started, is ideally to flood the market with very quality talent, so it can become more affordable for small businesses and startups to afford talent, quality talent, so they can be able to build more sustainable businesses in the long run. Right. So we started Powerland about 1.5 years ago, in November 2021. At this point, we've been able to train about 10,000 software developers across Africa. So we are based in 5 countries, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Zambia. Out of the 10,000, by one condition was all our intakes, at least 40% have to be young women, because we need to get more young women into this space.
In the space,
and what we've realized is actually in terms of even the commitment to the course. So we provide it as a scholarship over a period of 16 weeks, and then we give them opportunities to either upskill, go into entrepreneurship, or go into employment. And what we've realized is out of the 1,000 perhaps we would get into a cohort, most of the young women are the ones who actually go the extra mile. So they're the ones who have the best projects, they're the ones who are very interested in upskilling, mentoring each other and things like that. And for us, I think it's been a great experience, because now we're looking at opportunities where we can, you know, stand and say that there's opportunity for young women to get more into technology if they're given the right resources, they're given the opportunity and accessibility to that.
I see that. I see that. And of course, it's important, the whole question about then getting that opportunity, because that is not possible for so many people. And of course, majority of them being women and girls as well. So providing that, you know, sort of like access and opportunity is very, very key. Ariel, on your end, I mean, you have vast experience, like what, over 8 years. We're talking about ecosystems and entrepreneurship, you know, and especially when it comes to sustainable development, ecosystem building. Take us through, how was your journey getting there? Was it built from a need, a passion, was a gap identified?
It was kind of accidental. I would say like Mumbi, had always sort of been in the development space. And I had done a lot of, I had worked at a rehabilitation center for street girls, I had worked at a think tank in the US, and it didn't feel like enough progress. So I went to Kenya to run an immersion program for American college students to work with local community members. And these local community members were building businesses. The whole idea was, you know, what type of assets do they already have that we can leverage to really help uplift them, help themselves really, you know, earn more income, etc. And that was wonderful. Again, it didn't seem like enough. So I ended up going to India, sort of learned about the sort of impact entrepreneurship space there, the sort of social enterprise buzzword, and that really captured my attention. The idea that businesses, that development issues could be solved by businesses and scalable businesses. And I think this is where the tech angle, especially that Mumbi is talking about, you know, in order to have a business that can reach low-income consumers or that can affect educational outcomes, health outcomes, pick your sustainable development goal, right? You need to be tech-enabled. And over the years, I really have seen specifically women entrepreneurs struggle, not just with the tech, with the access to infrastructure, with the access to investment opportunities, with just the basic, you know, opportunities to scale and grow their business. And I think Nelly also touched on it, right? It's that sort of, as women, we tend to be a little bit less
that internal conflict. What's happening?
Am I good enough? You know, whereas men don't have such such issues.
Like,
you know,
try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
And I think that's again, it sort of goes back to, you know, how we're raised versus how men are raised, and there's, you know, we recognize a lot of these systemic biases in the system, in the ecosystem, and finally now we're starting to see some progress, some you know, a lot of emphasis on gender lens investing, a lot of emphasis on women in tech, in supporting more women in very unique ways, women entrepreneurs specifically, right? Because it's not about equality, right? It's about what support do specific women entrepreneurs need to be able to grow. And that's different than what men need. And that doesn't mean it's better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah. And of course, we'll be focusing on then how different that is, and then what do we need to do. And especially I'm happy that we have all of you here today. You are in those spaces. So what is it that is working? What is not? What are some of those gaps? You identified a gap. You identified a gap, you as well. So then what is it that we need to do now that you're here? What are some of the lessons that you have learned that you can pass on to younger women who are watching you this morning and saying, hey, okay, will I, should I, can I ever get into this space? And of course, what again this day, reminds us to do, and some of the efforts that we need to really, really put in place. But remember what we're asking you today, and that is, who are you celebrating on this International Women's Day? So much to come. The hashtag to use is Your World, as well as hashtag Embrace Equity. But the question is, who are you celebrating on this International Women's Day? I'll be looking at your feedback after the break. Stay with us. This is Your World. So much to come after the break.
Why do we do it? Hide, cover up, tone down? Choose boldness. Celebrate the skin you're in and dress with confidence with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion. The triple layered care of deep moisture serum, precious cocoa butter and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. It's time to show off your best skin. Wear your skin with pride every time with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion.
With Glovo, you have anything you want from your city in your hands. Kama unatamani ugali beef ama fried chicken, order Glovo ujaribu restaurant mpya. Tamu. Kama game inawaka na unataka drinks zaidi, order Glovo ushangilie timu yako. Na kama your little one amemes na diaper zimeisha, order Glovo and save the day. With Glovo, unaweza track order yako na kuongea na customer support, which is always available. Download the app and order anything you want from your city. We'll deliver.
My name is Monica Kehia. I'm the group director for Human Resources and Culture at NCBA Group. Oh, I look forward to International Women's Day every year. And why is that so? Because first, I'm a woman. And the fact that International Women's Day is recognized globally, I want to be part of that global celebration to recognize the contribution of women in society. When we take time to reflect on what that means, how we can support women to be able to bring them, their best in every sphere of life, I want to be part of that. I'm a firm believer that women do have a great talent, and when you give them opportunities, then you have better organizations that contribute to this economy. We need to embrace gender equity. And this year's International Women's Day, the sign for that is to embrace. So go out in the world and embrace gender inclusion. Give equal opportunity irrespective of gender. And that way we have a better world.
Sometimes love is sweet to her.
I know that we've only just met and...
When true love comes your way, it just takes a few minutes to recognize it.
And other times, it is so bitter that she can't recognize it.
No!
Get away from her! Let her go!
You killed him!
Guilt.
No, I didn't kill him, I swear. Get the van. We have to bring him to the hospital. Move faster. Whoever did this to your brother,
Evil.
I will make him pay for this.
I am a Garcia too, even though I don't have the same blood. You can believe what you want.
I don't want to be with you anymore.
Don't you realize that you are way too young for me?
Yes, but you feel the same way I do.
And where are they?
Natalia, be careful!
Why do you always go with the first one that sweet talks you?
I hate you, you good for nothing! Don't touch me!
Head Over Heels.
Head Over Heels, in association with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa.
The triple layered care of deep moisture serum, precious cocoa butter, and vitamin E enriches your skin for 48 hours. It's time to show off your best skin. Wear your skin with pride every time with Nivea Nourishing Cocoa Body Lotion.
Own your dream home for as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings in Vipingo Kilifi. SMS Vipingo to 22365 or call us today on 0740 400 215. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, welcome back. And of course, as you can see, we are in the spirit. It's a very important day today. It is International Women's Day. And of course, the hashtag is Embrace Equity. And that is what we are doing today. All right, we are embracing equity. And whatever you're watching us from, I hope you're doing the, embrace yourself and embrace each other. Because the whole, conversation is all about embracing equity. And that is what we are doing today. And this is via our conversation. Of course, as you can see, we're all, again, embracing equity. It's International Women's Day. I cannot talk about it enough. And the conversation, of course, revolves around the theme, and that is on digital innovation and technology for gender equality. And of course, the women that I have today, very important women. We know that we need to, first of all, know about and also interact with, and especially because the fact that they are in the tech world, breaking barriers, in there as far as what that, means. And of course, we have Nelly Cheboy, who's the founder and CEO of TechLead Africa. And of course, like I said, not new to many of us because, again, she was the CNN Hero of the Year, and that is 2022. The entire country was talking about her last year. So Nelly, really thank you so much for sparing your time. And of course, Ariel Molino, Associate Vice President, Intel Cap, as well as Mombendungu, Chief of Growth and Operations, Power Land Project, doing amazing, amazing things. And I'm just going to start with you, Mombe, before we go to Nelly very quickly. Being in this space, right? What are some of the lessons that you have learned, and especially when it comes to dealing with, the whole question about tech? We're talking about this when we were going for the break, and that is when we talk about tech, we mostly go towards the extremities in terms of very difficult concepts, and complex thing to deal with. But for your case, what is it that you have learned being a woman in the tech space?
So I'll give two experiences that I've had. One from interacting with young women who want to come into this space. Okay. So one thing I've come to realize is that it's a very mindset-oriented thing.
Yes.
So most of these young people don't think they can become software engineers or developers like Nelly. Mm-hmm. They don't think that they can be in spaces where they can speak confidently about technology and people will listen. Because even growing up, STEM was for the guys.
Yeah.
STEM subjects. You're good in math.
Yes.
That's for the men. You focus on home science and English and the languages and all of that. Or the best you can do is
just be a nurse.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So you don't aspire to these other spaces. But also I realize there's a huge lack of information in regards to that because people assume technology is all about the complicated things. It's about, artificial intelligence and algorithms and all of that.
And coding and all those things.
Yes, but we see some of the best marketers in the world are actually women.
Sure.
Some of the best, influencers on social media are actually women. And much as we don't think this is technology, it actually applies to the same.
Yeah.
So I think from my perspective, one thing I've realized, and I've made it very intentional, even for myself, when I interact with young women, is to show them that it's very possible for you to achieve what you want to achieve in regards to using technology. But also from my own experience as a leader, a young woman who's a leader in technology, I've also experienced that in a lot of rooms I've walked in. I've been into many spaces, whether in government, whether in private sector, where you speak, before you speak, people don't listen to you because they assume you're a woman. So how did you, first of all, how did you get here? And what do you know about, you know, training software developers and things like that? Yet they have not taken the time to actually, so it's just what Ariel said before, there are existing biases that we first need to tackle so that we can make sure that the young women who are coming into this space have the right mindset for that. But also, let's speak to our sons and our, you know, and our men and tell them that it's very possible for young women to also, or for women in general, to just get into this space and do exemplary things. Just giving you an example of some of the, look at the big corporations, big tech corporations who've come and set up in Nairobi at this moment. Most of them are led by women. It's Microsoft, it's Meta, it's Google, because they've realized that women in leadership, women can actually take leadership positions in big tech companies. And it's a really good point for us to look into and also just to aspire to be. So I'm really, I mean, extremely excited about that. It's not all bad, but we still have a very long way to go in regards to transformation.
And I'm happy that we have all of you here today to figure out what do we then need to do, especially when it comes to, because there's a lot of things that needs to be put in place for, you know, to help as many women have, number one, access, but also thrive, you know, in this area. So I'm really, really happy that I have all of you here today so that we figure out where do we need to start from. All right. And Nelly, for you as well, you started your school, you know, Zawadi. You are dealing with over 4,000 you know, children in schools as well. So then what has been your experience? What have you learned? What needs to work as soon as now, you know, based on your experience, and that is in this tech field?
I have to echo what Mumi said. A lot of tech is really soft skills. I think right now, like, building a brand is actually more important than knowing how to code. Because if you can go out there and talk about your, you know, whatever it is, right? As you're seeing the social media influencers, the marketers, right? That's where the money is actually. And then learning how to code, just go to YouTube. There's so many tutorials, there's so many information on that. So a lot of what is actually taking advantage of tech is actually soft skills than hard skills. And I think that as women, given our just like our almost like instinctive maternal instinct, and given how we've grown up, how compassionate and empathy we have, it's actually a lot easier for us to do those things, right? And so that's a lot of what we teach our kids, in that really, I mean, learning how to code is really easy, but learning how to understand the market, or learning how to understand your audience, learning how to build an audience, that is really hard. And thinking about the empathy part of it is actually really hard. So I am actually in a very privileged position that I cannot take it for granted. I get to get a hold of these kids when they're still young, when there's no stereotypes. When actually their first interaction technology is this tech-led class. And so we get to them when they're like in first grade, second grade. And it's amazing just how like you find like a boy like who's so into typing, right? And making Word documents, or a girl who's so into coding. And for them, they don't see anything wrong with this, right? Because they're growing up with that. And so it kind of shows, I wonder at what point in our societal that girls starting having that mindset. But for me, we feel so privileged to get to these kids still really young, when they haven't developed any biases, and we just see them flourish.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you get so giddy when you talk about it. It's very, very, you know, really good to see you do that. All right. And of course, according to, again, the UN.
I love them. That's so fun.
According to the UN, you know, they say STEM-related fields by 2050, 75% of the jobs will be related to STEM areas. This is massive, right? And 2050 is not too far from here and from now. So Ariel, what would you say then should be the first thing that we sort of like consider, because there's that aspect of internal conflict, but there's also societal biases as well that, again, you know, deprive women and girls access and some of these opportunities when it comes to, you know, learning and navigating, you know, the tech space. What is it that we need to start on, or some of the gaps that you have identified, you know, in your field?
I think, I mean, echoing what Mumbi said, I mean, I think it's just persistence. It's encouraging women that they can, and girls, that they can do whatever they want to do. I think, and you know, some of the things that I look at when it's like, okay, what needs to change, or what progress do we need to make? One is, I think, one of the things that I've learned over the years is technology as an enabler, right? So as I think both of the ladies echoed, right? Whether you're doing marketing for your business, whether you're doing sales, whether you're creating that Excel spreadsheet to do your projections for your business, or your PowerPoint deck for your investment slides, those all require basic, you know, computer literacy skills. And I think that's one of the like base areas that we really need to start encouraging and giving access to children with, you know, basic computer literacy, because that is foundational for everything that you will do after that, especially if you're looking at entrepreneurship, etc. I think the second piece is awareness that there is an issue. And I think the more that we're talking about it, the more research that's coming out around these things, that awareness is coming, and it's coming in a big way. So for my industry around entrepreneurship, you know, there have been loads of reports that are showing how little investment female entrepreneurs are getting, right? In 2022, I think it was less than 2% of venture capital went to female-led businesses. And this has been consistent across the board. So I think there now has been this recognition that this is an issue. And the same for, I think we're starting to see this recognition for these sort of foundational skills for girls as well. So again, in the sort of the entrepreneurship space, you're now seeing a lot of gender lens investment funds. You're seeing a lot of gender lens investing toolkits. You're seeing a lot of attention towards addressing this. And I think that's a good step in the right direction. It's not enough, but at least we're recognizing that there is an issue rather than just sweeping it under the rug.
Altogether. All right, and then Mumbi, when it comes to then, you know, understanding tech and how it is important, because again, now we cannot wish tech away, you know, innovation, there's a lot of innovation happening, there's a lot of advancements when it comes to technology, but at the same time, we're also experiencing increased number of cyberbullying and, you know, online bullying and all those things. And majority of the times, yes, the men are targeted too, but women are mostly targeted, women and girls as well. So then how can women navigate this space, but also remain safe, so that we enjoy this? Because like I said, we cannot wish it away. If anything, we need it more now. And having the basic knowledge and the skills is very important. So then how do we navigate the space, but also to make sure that we remain safe, so that we enjoy and see the benefits of this?
So I think I'll just go back to what I said before. I think what we see online is a true reflection of our society. So I think it's very systemic. So we need to go back to the drawing board and create, you know, systemic changes that now will ideally reflect on. So it's around intentionality, even from whether it's from government and in terms of policy. I do know there's a lot of conversations around policy in regards to online safety, but a lot of people haven't yet figured it out. And I mean, technology evolves every day. I mean, it's not something we can blame on someone, they haven't done this as yet. But it's because we've actually been aware that this happens. How do we now sit back and say, we're now going to be intentional when we are creating the solutions from the onset to actually include the women in the design process, to make sure that these spaces become more safer for them. But also just putting them in the room where there are excellent software engineers who can build the new Twitters and the Facebooks. And why don't we have more women in those spaces who can now advocate? Because again, I would not ideally expect a man to understand everything as a woman I'm going through. Sometimes it takes, empathy comes from someone who's been through what you've been through, or they can actually sit, you know, they can say they have actually gone through something, or they know someone who's gone through something like that. So how do we first become more intentional in getting more women into those spaces where they have the opportunity to create platforms that are, you know, life-changing, such as, for example, social media platforms. But also in terms of the policy, how do we become more inclusive, you know, from the onset? So intentionality from the onset while you're intending to design the thing. How do you incorporate women from the onset, you know, to make sure that whatever solutions we're coming up with are very inclusive and they're very considerate when it comes to both genders?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do you want to contribute to the same?
Can I add?
Sure,
Yes.
go ahead.
And I think it's not enough for women to be at the table.
Yes.
Everyone, so sort of this prevailing sentiment that, oh, if women are there, then we've made it, right? No.
Yes.
Women need to use their positions at the table to influence for other women.
Yes.
It goes a step further. And I think, yes, we need to start there, but I think we also need to think deeper and make sure that we're not just getting women at the table for the sake of getting women at the table, but women at the table are actually using and influencing in a way that if positively affects that trickle down from
Absolutely.
Yes.
But then again, what about those women who just get the space at the table and then, you know, like you're saying, we think that, yeah, we've made it and all those things. So we don't use our voices at the table to influence change, to influence inclusivity, you know, and all those things. Some could be shut down, you know, based on whatever it is that they are contributing and bringing to the table. But I think we need to fight beyond just getting a space, you know, on the table, like you're saying. All right, Nelly, for you, what would you say in terms of navigating, you know, this space and having the basic, you know, knowledge? You are impacting the young children from a very, very young age, which is a really, really good thing. But then again, how do we make sure that we sustain that they don't lose the momentum and don't lose, you know, that along the way?
I think, honestly, the one thing I'm a very optimistic person, but the one thing I'm really worried about is how safe online is. Like right now, most of the kids, like I see it like on my niece, and they're constantly on TikTok all the time. And it's not even curated content. They're just constantly scrolling. And I met this, I went to visit a school, and she's a very talented musician, and she had some songs, and I was like, oh, that's really great. Have you tried like publishing, like putting it up on YouTube? And it was like, no, I'm scared of the comments. And so it's kind of like, it kind of really just shows how technology is just like, it's a magnifier for everything. It's a magnifier for the inequalities that we have in our societies, as Movie has mentioned. And it's also like, as we can use it, as much as we can use it for good, I think it's actually really becoming very detrimental, especially for our kids who are growing up with technology, who are taking their parents' TikTok phones and just scrolling on TikTok all the time, right? And then you're looking at the people online, like the Kenyans on Twitter, you're looking at just how they comment up. And you're just looking at that, and it's like, that is the thing I'm actually most worried about, is that just the online safety. And even though, like, yes, you can have your name, of course, like people feel like if I'm on a keyboard, the keyboard warriors, they can just say the meanest thing and they can get away with it. And I think it actually comes to making that safe environment. I have no idea how to address that. And that is actually one of the things I'm particularly worried about, especially for our kids. When I was my niece's age, I was kicking rocks and jumping.
Right?
All I see that I get home and she's like, hey, can you hotspot me? And then she's just on TikTok for hours. I'm so worried about it, right? And it's a reflection of just so many kids that are growing up right now. And this is like, you know, I was our age like less than 12 years ago, not even a long time ago. And so that is, I don't have a solution for that, but I think that is actually the most scary thing, in that we cannot ignore technology. Technology is here. And it's just like, yes, we can leverage it, like what's what we're doing with TechLet. We can leverage it, people can make money on it, they can build brands, you know, they can do anything remotely. But also it can be very detrimental for our society. And that's something we need to address.
Absolutely. And I think I'm just going to throw this then to you, all of you ladies here, because you are in these spaces, and yes, you offer trainings and all those things, but maybe also include safety as well, training people on online safety, right? Which again will help us then leverage the power as far as tech is concerned, so that we're all safe, we all enjoy you know, technology, but also reap the benefits of the same. I have very few minutes left before we end the conversation. And of course, we've addressed so many things, from the gaps to some of the solutions that need to be put in place just to make sure that we have more women in STEM, in tech, and also when it comes to access as well, we have some, you know, some level of equity as well. So I'm just gonna ask you and put you to the task, okay? So in your space and over this years, you know, as far as your experience is concerned, what is it that you have done and quantifying that to what you're seeing now, especially when it comes to the basic knowledge, you know, and of course the positive impact that you have, you know, put to those people who you offer these trainings or who look up to you. And number two is, what is it that you'll tell that young girl who's watching us today and thinking, hey, okay. I'm going to start with you, Ariel.
Awesome. So I'll, again, sort of speak to the entrepreneurship space. What I've done in the past is we actually started the first that I had seen a female founders showcase. Yeah. So we were really specifically featuring promising upcoming women entrepreneurs and really selecting them based on their potential, based on the promising businesses that they had. And it was a bit nervous, you know, we're like, what if nobody's ever done this, what if, you know, and it's like, what's the worst that could happen?
A lot of those,
you know, what's the worst that could happen? We actually ended up being overwhelmed with the response for that, and it's something that we've retained now year on year through our convening platforms to really make sure that we're featuring those female entrepreneurs. And the second is really having these conversations about these inherent biases in the entrepreneurship space, in the women leadership space. Women entrepreneurs, whether tech, non-tech, they need access to networks, they need access to capital, they need access to resources. There's huge asymmetry in this when it comes to women-led businesses versus male-led businesses, and making sure that these conversations are top of mind, and that, again, that they're not really getting swept under the rug, that we're recognizing there's an issue and really solutioning for those things. So my recommendation for your young woman entrepreneur out there would be don't give up. You know, there is a lot of promise. There's a lot of resources out there if you can look for them, right? I think there's a lot of things that are now being tailored to women entrepreneurs, you know, female in tech. So just look for those, apply for those. Don't say, oh, I'm not good enough. You are good enough. And just apply, and don't just be persistent. Don't stop until you get you know, to where you're going.
Absolutely. Don't stop. Stay persistent. I love that. Mumbi, you talked about, you know, what being in this space has done, not only for you, but also the women, you know, who you're offering, you know, this training to. My question would be, so then, what change would we see if we had so many women, you know, in this spaces embracing tech and all those things? What kind of a world would we be living now if we had all those women embracing and also having the basic knowledge and access to the same?
Yeah. So I would just perhaps summarize it with something I'm sure we've all heard enough times. If you educate one woman, it's like you've educated a village. So imagine educating half of the world's population, giving it access to technology, what kind of impact we would have. And I would just throw that out there for people to imagine as much as they can. And maybe just to also say, I think not only to speak to the young women, but even the older women, because just to give an example, one of our my first cohort, we had a lady who was a teacher, a retired teacher, and she had so much time, so she decided to apply for the scholarship. She got the scholarship, she went through the process, and at the end of the program, she realized that she could actually create a solution for some of her teachers to make sure that they have more accessibility to technology, so they can reduce the hours that they're spending on grading papers and things like that. And now we've had opportunities to present her to like the MasterCard Foundation for opportunities for funding and things like that. So I'm also speaking to all in general, just everybody. So from the young women who aspire for this to the older women who think, okay, I'm too old, I don't have time for, you know, smartphones and technology. Don't give up. Just have an open mind. You never know what possibilities can actually come from it and what impact you can have, even if you will ideally not be the one to experience it. but you will leave behind an excellent legacy.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. And Nelly, last but not least, we have literally a minute to go before we chase out of the studio. So then what would you say in terms of creating then a lasting impact, the kind of world that you want to see in the next 5 or 10 years? And this is as far as the impact of women in technology.
I think that's 1 minute is such a pressure. What can I say 1 minute?
Try.
I really think. Okay, so I really think I think just recognizing that technology is here to stay, and if we ignore it, it's gonna become very malicious. So just recognizing that, and I'm really glad that as we are making a lot of efforts towards, like part of the CBC curriculum is really towards digital inclusion. And so I think just continually investing in it, even right now we may not have all the resources in the country to keep running it, but we should not give up on it. We should not go back to the old way of memorization. So really investing in technology and looking at it very closely, because that is where we can get the most impact. Get to these kids when they're still really young, and then they're just growing. They're growing being a very mindful digital citizen. They're growing up taking a part of the digital economy.
I like that. Thank you very much, Nelly. And we really have to end the conversation, but I just want to read maybe 1 or 2, feedback as far as what people are saying. And this is in terms of who are you celebrating on this International Women's Day. Emma James on, Eman James on Facebook says, a woman is so much more than just a human being. She has the power to create life, to cope up with so much pain, and somehow always end up being the strongest one in the room. Happy Women's Day to all goddesses out there. I really, really like that. All right. And then Spencer Chepngetich says, it is our day. It sure is. All right. And then someone else says, oh gosh, oh man, I have lost that, but yeah, but thank you so much for your feedback as far as who are you celebrating today. But then again, we keep the conversation going online at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube as well. But I just want to say a special thanks to my guests today. Nelly Cheboy, founder and CEO TechLeaps Africa, who joined us by Zoom, Ariel Molino, Associate Vice President at Intel Cap, as well as Mombi Ndungu, who's the Chief of Growth and Operations at Powerland Project. Ladies, thank you so much. Has been an amazing conversation, and we hope to have different conversations come next year and the year after as far as the progress that we've made. And this is as far as many women joining the tech space. But for now, happy International Women's Day to you. Keep up the good work of empowering as many women out there. And thank you as well for watching us until the end of the conversation. So not forgetting tonight, later on, tonight we have a gala dinner. Hey, gala dinner. And this is organized by the Nation Media Group, and it will be happening at the Sarova Pan-Africa. You want to get yourself there. But for now, good day. Enjoy the rest of your day, and happy International Women's Day as we #embrace equity. Goodbye for now.